Top hat, check. Handlebar mustache, double check. Snappy suit and tie, as soon as I get my pay, check. A dark cape, check, and very cozy too. Monocle, sure, why not, check. Ah, but you cannot just look the part to be an excellent villain. Of course, you can't be a villain without a convincing evil laugh. Water, I need water. Ah, villains, evildoers, the bad guys. They say it's good to be bad, but being bad sure isn't easy. As characters, villains can be some of the toughest to create, and it's not uncommon to struggle making these personalities compelling and interesting. After all, villains are just like any other character, and as a result, have personalities, backstories, and everything else that comes along with making an outstanding character. So in this video, I'm gonna show you the do's and don'ts of creating a captivating villain character, so let's get into it. Before we can start creating our villain, we have to understand what a villain is. Traditionally, you have a hero and a villain. The hero is the good guy, the one we root for, while the villain is the bad guy, the one we boo and hiss at whenever they appear. It's important to understand that a villain can be almost anybody and anything. They could be an evil overlord brooding in their hatred for the world. Or they could be the star player on the opposing team. After all, villains come in all shapes and sizes. But when it comes to villains, there needs to be a motivation for them to do the things that they do. After all, they're evil for a reason. What's caused them to be bad? Did something happen to them growing up that explains their behavior? Was there an event that turned them to the dark side? A good villain needs a motivation, a reason to do the things they do. Being evil for the sake of being evil usually isn't gonna cut it. Perhaps they want to be the most powerful mage in all the land, and will stop at nothing to sate their lust for power. Or maybe they're a thief who steals from others because they enjoy the thrill and a few extra coins in their pocket. Maybe they just want revenge on someone who's wronged them in the past. But it's important to note that these characters likely weren't born this way, and in many cases, the cause for the characters to be evil usually stems from either a single defining event or a series of similar events. These events should be good enough reason for the character to turn evil, or at the very least, put them on the right track to becoming evil. Now, whatever the motivation may be, the motivation itself should be something that would realistically cause your villain to do the evil things they do. A strong motivation means a great villain, so make sure to give your character a good reason to be bad. However, there's a good chance that your villain character doesn't even see themselves as the bad guy. You have to remember, these villains, despite being considered evil, are still people too. Just because we may not agree with what they do and see what they do as bad, that doesn't mean that they themselves see their own actions as evil. Villains oftentimes have their own code of ethics, and what they see as right and just perhaps clashes with others. For example, Robin Hood is a character classically known from taking from the rich and giving to the poor. Some of us would say that this is a very heartwarming and noble thing to do. However, he's a thief, he's stealing, he's breaking the law. So does that make him a villain? Being a villain and being evil all depend on the perspective. So just because you see the character as a villain does not mean that they themselves see themselves as one. They might see themselves as the good guys. Keep that in mind when you're creating a villain OC. It's also important to remember that most villains aren't going to be purely evil. Villains, just like any other character, can still have positive qualities about themselves. Now, this doesn't mean that a villain should have more positives than they do flaws, but keep in mind that having a purely evil character can be quite dull and certainly less believable. And speaking of flaws, like any good character, a villain should have their weaknesses. And this can take the form of personality traits or even physical traits. For example, a villain's greed could lead them to making poor choices, which could ultimately cause their downfall, or their bad knee stops them from making a quick and nimble escape. Villains, like any character, should also have their fears. What are they afraid of? Are they scared of losing, of defeat? Maybe they're afraid of the dark. The nature of the character, and more importantly, importantly, how evil and serious they are should factor into what they're afraid of. Also, keep in mind that villains, like any character, should not be unstoppable or have only one obscure weakness. This doesn't mean that they can't be powerful, or even very powerful, but always make sure to keep it realistic with respect to the world you're working in. Another great tip when creating evil characters is to take a look at some of your favorite villains from movies, shows, or any other form of media. What makes them a captivating villain? Why are they so good at being bad? Don't be afraid to get inspired by some of your favorite villains. But now I want to hear from you. Who's your favorite villain? Do you have an evil character? Let me know in the comment section below. I'd love to hear what you have to say. So with that, I want to thank you all for watching this video, and with any luck, you'll be up to no good in no time. If you enjoyed, then be sure to leave a like. As well, don't forget to subscribe, it helps support me for free, and it only takes a click. Also, don't forget to find me outside of the show on DeviantArt and Facebook, where I post the artwork I make, as well as real life shenanigans. So once again, thank you so much for watching. This is Tyandaga signing out.